Have you ever pondered why the Olympic host country seems to bag more medals? It's a pattern that's hard to miss if you've been following the Games. For instance, at the recent 2024 Paris Olympics, there was a noticeable uptick in the medal count for France, the host nation. The crowd's support was tangible, a deafening cheer erupting every time French swimmer Léon Marchand surfaced for air, a silence descending when he dipped back under. Now, we wouldn't want to take away from the 22-year-old's incredible performance by attributing his 4 gold medals solely to the crowd. But it's hard to deny that there's something about that home field advantage that seems to give athletes an edge. This phenomenon isn't unique to the Paris Olympics. In fact, it's almost a given that the host country will see a boost in its medal tally compared to the previous Games. And while it might be tempting to dismiss this as a result of increased media coverage, the numbers tell a different story. But what exactly is this home field advantage? It's a term that originated in team sports, referring to the edge that the home team usually enjoys over the visiting team. The idea is that familiar surroundings, supportive fans, and the absence of travel-related stress can enhance a team's performance. And it seems this concept extends to the Olympics as well. Many athletes have shared anecdotes about how the roar of the home crowd has spurred them on, how it has given them that extra bit of energy when they needed it most. Clearly, home field advantage plays a part, but it's not the only factor in play. So, what else might be contributing to the host country's success? While the roar of a supportive crowd is undoubtedly a morale booster, there are other factors at play, some less obvious, that give the host country an edge. One such factor is increased funding for athletes. It's not uncommon for host nations to bolster their investment in sports and athletes in the lead-up to the Games. These funds often go towards training, equipment, and overall athlete development, providing a substantial boost to the athlete's performance. Take Spain, for example. Ahead of the Barcelona Games in 1992, Spain offered stipends to its top athletes. This strategic investment paid off. The country, which usually kept a low profile in the medal tally, made a significant leap, bagging 22 medals. This wasn't a mere coincidence. It was a testament to how financial support can supercharge an athlete's performance. Then there's the advantage of less travel. Competing in your home country means less time spent adjusting to new time zones or acclimating to a different climate. This comfort of home can translate into a competitive edge. Athletes can focus solely on their performance, rather than grappling with jet lag or unfamiliar weather conditions. Take a moment to think about it. Imagine being an athlete, waking up in your own bed, eating familiar food, training in a familiar environment, and competing in front of your home crowd. It's a different ballgame altogether. But remember, it's not just about the crowd cheering you on. It's also about the resources and convenience the host country provides. This combination of morale and material support creates the perfect storm for a host country's success at the Games. And while the crowd's cheers may fade, the impact of these less obvious factors can echo long after the Games are over. But this trend hasn't always been the case. Let's journey back in time and examine the history of the home field advantage at the Olympics. As we do so, we'll see that the trend has morphed significantly over the years. Initially, in the early years of the modern Olympic Games, which kicked off in 1896, the home field advantage was somewhat of a given. Why? Most of the athletes were locals. Take the 1904 St. Louis Games, for instance. A staggering 84% of the athletes were American, and they walked away with almost 90% of the medals. But was this a true reflection of athletic prowess, or was it a result of the limited global travel at the time? That's a question for another day. Fast forward to 1980, the Moscow Olympics. The United States, protesting the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, boycotted the Games. Following suit were about 60 other nations in what was the largest Olympic boycott ever. As a result, the Soviet Union had a field day on the podium, scooping up an eye-watering 195 medals. That's 70 more than they had won in the previous Games. Fast forward again, this time to 1984. Los Angeles. The tables turned. The Soviet Union, along with other communist nations, boycotted the Games. And the United States? They took home 174 medals, a significant jump from the 94 they had won at the 1976 Olympics. So it's clear the home field advantage hasn't always been about supportive crowds or familiar climates. Political circumstances have played their part too, and as we move forward, the trend continues to evolve. To account for some of these historical quirks, an analysis was performed on the medal tally for Summer Games starting from 1952 through to 2012, excluding 1980 and 1984. The findings? Host countries still increased their medal tally, this time by an average of 12.2 medals. The home field advantage has surely evolved over the years, but its impact is still evident today. And as we continue to watch, cheer, and celebrate the Olympic Games, it's worth keeping this historical perspective in mind. As for the future of the home field advantage, only time will tell. It's more than just a game of numbers. The Olympics, as we've seen, is a fascinating confluence of factors that steer the host country towards victory. The euphoria of a home crowd, the familiarity of the turf, the absence of jet lag, the motivation to uphold national pride, all these elements come together to create an environment that's conducive to athletic triumphs. But we shouldn't forget the strategic efforts that come into play. Governments often increase funding for athlete training and development in the lead up to the Games, a move that often translates into a greater medal haul. The host country also has the advantage of choosing which sports to include in the program, often picking those where they have a strong track record. And let's not overlook the sheer human element. Athletes, after all, are people who respond to the energy and motivation around them. The roar of a supportive crowd, the sight of familiar landmarks, the comfort of their own bed, these can provide that extra push, that adrenaline surge that can make the difference between silver and gold. So the next time you watch the Olympics, remember, it's not just about the athlete's skill, but also about the power of the crowd, the resources at hand, and the comfort of home.